Hi, I'm Corey. I'm about 3 months into the future from when I recorded all this footage, and a lot has happened, a lot has changed. I'm not the same man. Because as you know, the same man does not step in the same river twice. For it's not the same river. It's not the same man. Now that we have our templates made from the last episode, we can use that to trace a guitar shape onto the soundboard that we made in the first episode. And if you didn't watch the last episode, that's okay. I just summed it up in the last sentence. In this video, I have one goal in mind, and that is to simply inlay the rosette into the soundboard. Of course, first I have to make the rosette and figure out how to cut the rosette and figure out how to inlay the rosette and figure out how to cut the channel, and all I have is this cheap ass jig that I made. Wait, hold on, stick the script, Corey. Okay, now honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing. And at this point in the build, I'm starting to think that I enjoy working backwards more than I enjoy working forward. Now, I could have made the rosette first, but instead I decided to find the location of it on the soundboard.
Make a mark at the halfway point.
Because I figured it was easier to find the location of something when it doesn't even exist than to make the something and find the location later. So I think I'll just use this to cut out a channel. But before I cut into the soundboard with a questionable circle cutting jig I made from a scrap piece of disappointment, I decided it'd be best if I tried it out on a perfectly good piece of hobby board. The way this jig works, you drill a hole into the bottom board, that's your center point. You drill a second hole into the jig, that's your radius. It's a two-step process, so surely, there's no possible way that I could mess this up. Right? Right? Now, let's see if my measurements were true. What's the diameter of this circle? 4.5. Okay, good. You know, honestly, the channel went pretty well, actually, for the first try. And so I went and picked up a bit that would match the width of the rosette. I believe it was a 1/2-inch bit. It's been so long I don't really remember, actually. I also don't even have the jig anymore. I threw it away. I got a better one. Remember how I said I have no idea what I'm doing? Well, that turns into a motif, making its appearance across the next 5 months of this guitar build. This is two cuts. One on the farther distance, one at the closer distance. At the closer distance, exactly 4 inches. So I think maybe we just go with that, because my sound hole is going to be 4 inches, exact. I've cut another hole. 4 3/16. I think that's good, because it leaves me a 3/16 border of that soundboard between the sound hole and the rosette. I like that. That is my go-to rosette channel. Yeah, I put off to the side. It doesn't matter whether it's in the center line or whatnot. All it matters is the distance from the center of this bit, right? So as long as you're on a radius, they would always be the same distance no matter what. So right there is rosette channel. I should probably label that so I don't forget. Okay, I have a bunch of pine, red oak, and a little bit of poplar. I could make it entirely out of red oak, or I can try to get really thin pieces of this poplar because it's darker and have them like in between the red oak. So it'd be like with red oak in between them. That might look cool, actually. Maybe I'll try that. Now, somehow, I was able to make this shape that, with enough imagination, kind of resembled a circle. And after a little bit of cleanup, it started to look a little bit less shit. Wait, that did not accomplish what I wanted it to accomplish. So I now had a channel ready to receive a rosette. But the rosette had a bunch of excess material on it, and I had to figure out a way to trim the fat. Wait, I didn't do shit. God damn it. What am I doing? Oh wait, yes it did, actually. But I was limited by the amount of tools I had, and a lack of willingness to spend money. And so instead, I spent the one thing that I can never get back. What am I doing? Okay, couldn't I take a really precise measurement? 66. I don't want the center, I want the edge of the, I want the edge. No matter which edge, right, does it? So the plan was simple. Come here. If I have a radius, I need to make 2 cuts. One that can cut the inside of the radius, and another that can cut the outside of the radius. And if I looked at this for just a little bit longer, maybe I would have realized exactly what I had to do. instead of wasting so much time. We're gonna try it on this test piece. Okay, that did not work. But this past version of me didn't understand the difference between an inside cut and an outside cut. And so thus began 6 hours of fuckery trying to figure out this damn rosette. Why did that not work? They are really close together, so I guess that makes sense. What? I'm so confused. Okay, I'm switching gears over to a Dremel tool. Maybe that'll be more accurate. Not with that bit. What am I doing wrong? I'm not compensating for the width of the router bit. Is that what's happening? I think that's what's happening. So is this a proper inside diameter? No, it's too large. Why? How the hell am I gonna cut this out? Okay, that is a success so far. See that? How this ring, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I need. Ah! Showtime, I guess. Now this is an example of what can only be described as hubris. Because I made one semi-successful cut, and instead of dialing the parameters to fit the rosette perfectly to the channel, I decided one test was enough before I went on to the real thing. As long as I'm gentle, take very little. How do I know it's centered? I don't know it's centered. How do I know it's fucking centered? Oh, I don't. Oh, of course. Let me just move on instead of fixing a blatant problem. Oh no. It doesn't actually matter if it's centered as long as all of it is within. Okay, no, and so yeah, that's true. But if I'm gonna make guitars for people, I want this to be a system that I can replicate. It needs to be repeatable, and it needs to have some sort of precision into it, you know? Because not every rosette's going to be random. Some rosettes are going to have symmetry in them, and any off-center cuts are going to ruin that. It needs to be a better system. So, the outer diameter is this one. I'm just going to look at it. Just want to look at it and see. It misses it there, so this hole actually needs to go a little bit farther. Why don't I just frickin' measure, dude? I tried measuring, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't figure it out. And so I did the next best thing. I eyeballed it. What? Inner diameter is this one. Let's see if it lines up. Yeah, I think it does. Okay, I'm gonna go for it. This may have been a successful first rosette. That's what I've ended up with. Okay, now I gotta get it out without breaking it. Okay. This channel is the channel for the rosette. This one should be able to fit right into it, but unfortunately it does not quite fit. I think the outside diameter is too big, but that's okay because it's just a little bit on every side, and so it gives me a chance to go through and round it off and just make it perfect. And as I was sanding it down, I couldn't help but wonder, where did I go wrong? But instead, my stubbornness persisted, and with it came devastation.
It fell apart.
Now this is a great example of my ignorance and lack of planning, because what I should have done was get the proper tool, for one. That way I can make the rosette however I wanted, cut it out with the proper tool, and then trace it onto the soundboard exactly where I wanted it. It would fit snug every single time. Very little room for error, very precise. It makes perfection easy. And so I went back to measuring onto this jig that was starting to develop more holes than the plot of The Walking Dead. And then I did a test.
Oh, well, that's a problem.
Then I broke it again. And then I made a new one. And at this point, I was at the mercy of Murphy's Law and myself. But with some patience from me, I started to feel like a completion of Murphy's Law, where everything that could have went wrong already went wrong. So it was about time for something to go right. This is going to be the scariest part. That is so close. And yeah, you know, I thought this looked alright. But it's my first ever rosette. There's a lot of room for improvement. But regardless, I was proud of it. I thought it looked alright. But, you know, life's up. Life has taught me lately, especially lately, that it's full of ups and downs. You know, some people die. That's a down. And sometimes it's a really steep hill to go back up. And even though I thought I had completed the universal karma of Murphy's Law, sometimes you just lose. That was terrible. That was actually disappointing. A little bit chipped out right there. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. That thing is aggressive as hell, but I think it's right here, so I'm going to try to fit that up and put it back together and clean that up, because my god, that's horrendous. We just carry on, I think, and take it as a lesson learned. Those things fucking suck. Use a router.